Hey, 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 everybody. Today for you, podcast number 60. Today's podcast is titled, Prepare to be Amazed. Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Lombardi, and sitting next to me is my beautiful wife, Sandy, and we are here to bring you the Limitless Life Network podcast. And we always start the podcast off with just thanking you from the bottom of our hearts for taking some time out of your day to listen to around 20 minutes worth of content that we put together. And the whole purpose of this podcast is to flesh out the limitations that are preventing you from reaching your goals and living the life that you were called to lead. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you really like this content, be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, but really just, pass it on if you think it's worth passing on. I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. So anything else you want to add?
No.
Yeah, good. Your sounds really good today. We got our microphone fixed. I think we've got it dialed in better. A couple of people mentioned last week that they couldn't quite hear Sandy as well. So hopefully it's better this week. So there we go. All right, on with the show. Prepare to be amazed. Yes. So the backstory today is pretty much what a lot of people are doing, and we're in the Northeast here up in upstate New York. Over the past few weeks and the next coming weeks, we will be preparing for another season called winter. So right now we're finishing our harvesting and we're canning things and we're freezing food. We've been putting different types of meat in our freezer. We're cutting and splitting wood and getting snow removal equipment ready. Snow recreational equipment. We've got to get that out too, right?
Right.
What do you like to do in the winter?
I like to cross-country ski.
Yeah, so she's got to get the poles and the boots. And,
That's easy prep.
yeah, but that's fun too. Switching clothing, right? You were talking about that. You always got to...
Making sure Grace's downhill ski boots will fit again for another season.
And we have to put away the patio furniture. We used that last night. And one of the things that I do is check mechanicals, make sure the heating system's working, make sure the tires on the vehicles are good for snow, put some snow brushes in the car. You did the garden hose this year. You drained the garden hose. Okay. Yeah. You don't want your garden hose getting frozen. So as I go through all these different things, I hope it's not making you anxious about more work that you have to do. And maybe a couple of those are a reminder for you. But from this stuff that many people are doing in the Northeast and across the country, we developed 5, I think, worthy points today that will hopefully help you guys have a great season. So the first point is this: what is in your forecast? It's really a question as much as a point. And what's behind this is really just trying to figure out, are you asleep at the wheel? Or are you really paying attention to what's going on, right? So this year, I've heard from a couple of sources, and I don't know how anybody even knows, but the forecast is for a heavy winter in the Northeast. So we'll see if they're right. But what about your own life? What, season that you're moving into now, what's the forecast? What is that going to look like for you? What's the prediction? And, if you're not looking forward at all, that's maybe a concern, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think we're just finishing up soccer season. I was coaching and Grace playing, and we wrap up on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to a different season, a season where we can focus more on our academics and have more time in the evening. And so it's with anticipation that I'm coming into this next season and focused on different things.
Yeah, but you have to, just at least look forward, right?
Right.
To a degree. You've got to look forward to a degree. it's great to look at your history too. And that's really point number two. And that is, what have you learned from your past that you can take into your next season?
Mm-hmm.
So I think of, I'm an avid outdoorsman. I do a lot of hunting. And every year during hunting season, as I'm sitting in a tree stand or doing something, I actually look at things that I didn't do and I wish that I had done, whether it's trimming a shooting lane or planting, some type of food source in a different area, or maybe moving a tree stand or something. But at the end of the season, I have these notes and of what I should have done and that I want to accomplish before this next hunting season. So hopefully that you've learned something from seasons past that you're carrying into this new season.
One thing you made me think of, like simple implementation step there, I'm learning over the years, is to actually like put that in my calendar for, say for you, for hunting starts October 1st, say mid-August, you've got a checklist of these are the things I recapped from last year that I wanted to tweak for this. And I do that often now, where I'll program it into my calendar with reminders like of things I wanted to do differently the next time around, the next season that comes.
Yeah, that's super, because what ends up happening is that you kind of get caught flat-footed, where you haven't got anything done, or maybe you didn't do what you remembered, or you forgot to remind yourself. So you don't want to get caught flat-footed for sure. So good. That's point number two. Point number three is this one that I hear of a lot, and we'll call it the least favorite season syndrome. So in central New York, I'll often ask people, what are you looking forward to? And they'll say next summer, or they'll say the spring. Like they're ready to skip winter altogether. They like the fall, but they always say, I don't like what comes after it, which involves less daylight, colder temperatures, snow, those things. Mm-hmm. So what's the least favorite season syndrome? It's focusing on all the negatives.
Right.
Right? So what's that going to do for us?
Our attention will be on all the things we don't like. So we need to find and maybe create replacements, or find alternative activities that we do like that we can do either outside or inside during those seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've often heard of the seasonal depressive disorder, which is a type of depression that becomes quite common during the winter months, and that's because of less activity, less physical movement, B, less sunlight. So without sun exposure, our bodies don't do well with that. So we have a propensity to want to sleep, which is normal, and a low vitamin D3 levels. So if there's one thing that you can simply add to your life, especially now, and if you're in the Northeast or if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, is adding some vitamin D3 to your regimen. I know that this month in our practice, we've been trying to highlight one of the supplements that we use for D3, which is called Solar FX from Serene Labs. And it's a liquid vitamin D. And it's probably the most cost-effective way to get vitamin D levels where they should be, because it's a liquid. I mean, literally 5 drops a day is going to give you plenty of vitamin D with K2. So
and it's awesome for kids because it's just liquid.
Yeah, super helpful. But kids dosages are going to be a little bit different.
Sure.
But yeah, go ahead.
Well, just one thing too, like I'm such a people person, and if you are, and you're part of your dread of winter is the less interaction with others. Like I was thinking, finding like an indoor activity that you enjoy for camaraderie, whether you can join the Y and take a class, or there's all kinds of programs around, but indoor activity with other people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, instead of focusing on the negative things about winter, let's avoid this least favorite season syndrome by focusing on what can be positive about it, right? Because when we're focused on negative energy, that's all we're going to attract to us is more negative energy. So, So it brings us to what? Point number Point number 4, which is substitute instead of delete. What is this one all about?
We were talking about adding alternatives to things that you can no longer do, right? Was where we were going with that point.
Yeah, exactly. So like say you've been really great at getting outside and riding your bike or going for a walk every day or a hike. And now it's cold, it's dark, it's icy, it's windy. You don't want to go outside and exercise. So go to a big box store and go for a walk, like a Walmart or a Lowe's, Home Depot. You can walk around those stores and do laps. I see people doing it. I know some of the local schools open up at after hours after all the kids have gone home, and they open their hallways up for people to come in and exercise and walk. There's, those old malls that people, you can go mall walking. You can join a mall walking club. There's plenty of indoor things that you can substitute. But what about food wise?
Well, before you go to food, I was thinking too, when we were planning this, I was thinking like projects. Pete and I love projects. I don't know if we love, but we do. We enjoy working on projects together. And we the winter will just go by if we don't intentionally make a list. So we're going to make a list of things we'd like to get done. And we have more downtime, more evenings free to do those things. We're not out mowing the lawn or whatever. So I think making a list, and it can be kind of fun to see what you can get through in the winter months and still staying active and not just watching movies and having excessive downtime on the sofa, and which leads us to excessive eating,
right?
Because you're just inactive. So if we can stay busy with projects and enjoy that, then we won't be just snacking all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's what ends up happening. Unfortunately, is that we all can be subject to the, it's kind of cold and dark and nasty outside. I don't really have anything that's pressing right now, so I'm just gonna watch some Netflix and snack on this. And even though it's healthy food, it's empty calories. It's calories that you're not needing at that time. So replace it with activities for sure. Great idea. And yeah. So point number 5, we're already to point number 5. Remember your bear and your lion. What in the world is this? This actually came from a sermon at church. And if you've ever heard of the story of David and Goliath, David is this little guy who was a shepherd boy. And while he was tending his sheep, he ran into, some pretty dangerous things, and he had to protect his flock. And he used a slingshot to fell both a lion and a bear. And when the call came where this nasty guy was threatening King Saul's army, this guy named Goliath, this massive warrior who had a track record of just mutilating people and killing people, and a fierce warrior, David said, well, I can take care of him. And nobody else wanted to fight this guy. But because David came in with his history, his testimony from his past, and the fact that he had the confidence and the faith that he could fell a lion and a bear with his slingshot, that this guy Goliath, no matter how big and tough he was with his sword and his spear and his shield, he's like, yeah, I can take him. And so, each and every one of us, we all have a testimony of faith, something that we've gotten through in our life where God has not abandoned us, that He's supported us and He's taken care of us. And if you take that forward with you and you bring that with you to build you up, bring your testimony with you for your potential new testimony. In other words, there's going to be more challenges down the road in that next season, right? And so this is where be prepared for something awesome. Be prepared for something special, because if you have that level of faith and confidence with you, then all things are possible. They really are. So being prepared to be amazed as to what God can do through you if you allow Him. Yeah, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I'm in my head thinking how much of this personal story to share, but God, walks us through tough times. And, there was a season where after our son was in a terrible car accident, and I watched him be airlifted from an accident scene. And I think that day I didn't display perhaps great faith. I don't know. I was in the moment, right, of concern. But I think back in the months after that, which were some really tough times for our son, and God was so faithful. I remember I could not turn off worship music in our home. I just had to have it on 24/7. I would leave it on at night when I slept. And I think going through those seasons, just I have peace with things that come up now, like a different kind of presence in the situation, because I know we're going to get through it, even if it's not the way I want it to be. So I think, draw on those times of doubt and fear, and see how you overcame that through God in your walk, and realize like you're going to have seasons of highs and lows, but we need to look through the season of low, because the season of high is right behind it, or beyond it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. All right. I think you added just the right amount. Well, that's all we have for this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. I want to just thank you for taking time out of your day. Be sure to tune in each and every week to stay connected, to be inspired, and to keep moving toward your best life by stripping away all of your limitations. We'll see you next week.